McDonald's and other fast food places, they used to have those little game stations. You could order a Big Mac and play some Sonic, I don't know. Well, from as young as I can remember, I've always had memories playing games in the waiting rooms of my dentist office, doctor's office, etc. A lot of the times, the waiting rooms were filled with those little baby tables with a setup of PlayStation and GameCube games that the little babs could play while they waited for their teeth to get cleaned.
Because normally kids hate going to the dentist, the doctors, anything that has to do with health and wellness, really. It can be scary and downright boring. And I feel like this fear gets worse once we become adults. I mean, even I don't like to go to the doctors just because I'm afraid of what they're gonna say. As soon as I became a responsible adult, there was nothing more daunting than having to book your own doctor's appointment. Ugh. I mean, my mom used to do that. Now you're telling me I have to do that? What do you mean? You're telling me I have to call? You're gonna know it's me booking the appointment? Oh, okay. Give me the phone. Hello?
I mean, what better way to quell the worries of a bunch of children who are probably there, to get their cavities filled, than to make a designated spot for gaming? I mean, can you say distraction? But this was like the perfect distraction, especially for someone who enjoyed video games like myself. And it wasn't quite like McDonald's, because at McDonald's, their setups were usually pretty grimy, and often the controllers were broken. But at a health establishment, we don't play that shit here. We're in a certified practitioner's office, okay? We clean our controllers. Damn it, Melee Jim, get the fuck out of here. You're not allowed in this establishment. Sometimes I'd tag along with family members if it meant getting a chance to scoot my butt over onto that kiddie table so I could play some games. But the worst thing was when you were there and there was some punk kid hogging the entire station, taking up both booths and playing the games simultaneously. And yes, that's happened, and yes, I had to be the bigger man and hold my tongue because I was the 13-year-old and the little brat was only 6.
Now, as I got older, I was surprised to find out that not every kid who went to the doctors actually experienced waiting room games. I thought those game stations were commonplace, but apparently this was my privilege. And that realization was so weird to me because I legitimately don't remember ever going to an office that didn't have one.
I know at clinics and doctors' offices, they sometimes had that one little section. You know the one where it's got the blocks in the corner and the wired contraption, aka the wooden germ roller coaster, and you just sit there with the other kids moving the blocks from one end to another like you're in solitary confinement. That just shit's rough. Meanwhile, your mom's at the other end of the room at her own little table known as the collection of cosmopolitan and lifestyle magazines. But we're getting off track. Let's keep it focused to the electronic games, okay? My office had a pretty interesting selection of games, and by that, I mean the selection was pretty mediocre. I want to say it's whatever they picked out from the Walmart bargain bin, but I honestly think some of the staff just donated some of the games they had lying around at home. It was always a 50-50 toss-up because one side always had a really fun platformer, and then the other game to the right was usually a sports game, which, I was never really partial to. And from my experience, rarely do you see a kid dedicating their time to the sports game because, well, come on. My first time experiencing Pac-Man World 2 was actually at my dentist's office, and I didn't even really care about traditional Pac-Man games, but this was a whole new 3D experience that really sucked me into the immersive platformer, and I enjoyed it so much we wound up buying a copy of it,
and I never played it since.
But the point is, playing this at home really doesn't evoke that same feeling. It just doesn't sound the same without the ambience of a small drill jackhammering the shit out of some innocent Joe's molars. You know how I said usually there was a boring sports game on one corner of the table? Well, SSX3 was the rare exception. You could just pick up at any point of the game and have an absolute blast. It didn't matter if you were playing against another kid or if you were playing against a computer. SSX3 was this really sick snowboarding game that had a lot of fun levels, edgy snowboarder, early 2000s cool dude music that would always play during the montage of each new stage, and a whole lot of flavor. Now, I don't play very many racing or sports games, but I did grow up playing a lot of Cool Boarders, which was also a snowboarding game, so this always felt like a nice upgrade from the PlayStation 1 series of games. Sitting Ducks! The game. Now, I know some of you are going to be like, what is this? Or, duh, I saw this on Game Grumps. Well, yes. Sitting Ducks was a show from the early 2000s that I used to watch a fair bit of. Think Donkey Kong Country, the series, without the music, with better jokes. It was one of those bizarre slice-of-life 3D shows about an odd friendship between a duck and an alligator that had this unique charm to it that I feel like totally fell under the radar and into obscurity. Because often when I bring it up today, nobody really remembers it. But I thought it was neat. Anyways, the game is exactly like the show. The first bit of the game is literally titled The TV Show.
Oh, poor Jerry. I think I better go and get a little bit of fresh air. Hello?
Hi, Bill. How are you?
Hey, Ed. I'm okay.
Good. So how about having a milkshake with us?
That sounds good. Okay.
Okay, we'll see you soon.
So, where should I meet you?
Oh my god. Super Monkey Ball! Yeah, they also had Super Monkey Ball. Listen, we're gonna have to skip this one. I'm sorry. I don't remember a goddamn thing that happened in Super Monkey Ball. Can he even breathe in there? And lastly, I also remember playing a lot of Epic Mickey at the doctor's office, and it's so weird because I'm pretty sure I enjoyed this game, yet as soon as I left the office, I never really felt compelled to go out and buy this myself. Epic Mickey was always one of those games that I always forgot even existed. I remember after the Kingdom Hearts craze came surging through the mainstream, I jokingly said to my sister, Jesus Christ, I never thought I'd see a game where they try to take Disney characters seriously. What next, a badass Mickey? Oh. Epic Mickey even has a pretty comparable plot to Kingdom Hearts, where the story focuses on Mickey Mouse having to rebuild a damaged world created by Yen Sid, and is forced to clean up the town with his Keyblade. I mean, his magical paintbrush. They made this game with the intention of resculpting Mickey into an epic hero. And don't tell me this don't have nothing to do with Kingdom Hearts, okay? Now, all joking aside, what do most of these games have in common, aside from the fact that a lot of them are platformers? They're just really good at passing the time. They function a lot more like app games, which are usually made to be easily consumable to kill time. And they're a lot less like the traditional AAA games we're used to playing today. Most of them, if anything, have a very non-linear progression and are games that can be easily picked up during any point of gameplay without really feeling that lost or confused. You get sucked right in as soon as you pick up the controller. These types of games are perfect at passing the time, and they aren't always story heavy like games like Final Fantasy, which I'm sure we would not see in a waiting room. Could you imagine trying to fly through this in less than 20 minutes? No way. That requires way too much thinking. There's way too much story and investment required in games like this, where playing it for a couple of minutes would be kind of boring and might actually run the risk of you losing interest and never bothering to pick up the game for a second time. Waiting rooms need games that aren't overly strenuous and challenging, games that are relaxing and are made for fun and enjoyment regardless of your skill level above anything else. We need simple games we can use to tide kids over until they have to go in for a checkup, something to ease their anxieties. What's the story? Who cares? I'm skiing. What's the objective? I don't know. I'm freaking 3D Pac-Man. I'm literally a duck in a slice of life game walking around town, for God's sake. Who cares about weight room games?
Listen, to a little sheltered homeschooled kid like me, waiting room games are an absolute treat. This is why I literally love the dentist, okay? I don't know anybody else who likes going to the dentist more than I. People are dreading getting their teeth cleaned. Meanwhile, I'm over here like, dinner and a movie, baby.
The dinner being the food they picked out of my teeth. With more little kids gaming and just being addicted to screens, like the rest of us, it isn't really necessary to have any form of entertainment in waiting rooms. We live in an age where everyone has a phone or a tablet and can just whip one out whenever they're bored and have their kids play games on it to pass the time before they get called in for their appointment. Games are just more accessible. I mean, it's too bad stuff like this is slowly starting to be phased out and fit. Whoa, hold on. What's this? Are we in a McDonald's Playroom? Oh my god, when did they come up with this? That looks really cool. Listen, I thought this was a thing of the past, but apparently they have services that can transform your office weight room into a literal funhouse for kids? We never had this. Man, they really leveled up on us.
Hey, do you think they give away pizza? Oh, I'm not here. But okay.
Here's where it gets weird.